Good evening and welcome to the October 28th, 2023 meeting of the Abington Board of School Directors. I note the attendance of all board members with Ms. Fazy joining us virtually. Please rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The Abington Board of School Directors has convened this evening's meeting at the Administration Building, and the public is welcome. In consideration of the health and safety of the school community, this meeting is also being broadcast live on the Abington School District YouTube channel. This meeting is being recorded and will be accessible on the district's website and cable channel no later than Friday, December 1st. Thank you very much. To allow those members of the public who cannot participate to view the proceeding at a later time. Comments from citizens will be conducted in person and by phone. Information regarding participating remotely in public comment will be displayed on the screen at the time of public comment, and the board thanks the public in advance for its cooperation. This is a place where we hold dignity in high regard. Your voice and your presence are both welcome in this space. Any additional announcements from Dr. Fetcher?
Yes, Ms. Brown. I'm going to ask if you would join me down at the lectern
My pleasure.
for an announcement. So there's laughter, tears, and relief, and all sorts of emotions this evening as tonight is the final board meeting for 3 of our members. So I have the privilege this evening to speak briefly about each member, and as I call your name, if you could please come on down here. And we'll start with Ms. Erin Glasser. If you could please come down. First of all, I'd like to say that these are more than participation trophies. They're well earned. Ms. Glasser has been with us for a year, since 2022, and what I'd like to say about your presence in that short amount of time, you truly stepped into that vacancy and began to serve the school board as if you'd been here for years. And one thing that really stands out in that time period is your advocacy for equal access for all students, especially in regard to our facilities, our playgrounds, and our school activities. And I think as we embark on many things within the school district in those realms, you have been an amazing supporter and advocate during that time. And as superintendent, I appreciate all the things that you've lent to that discussion. So, with that. Shake your hand. Yeah. Dr. Tamar Kleiman.
Dressed better if I'd known there were going to be pictures. Like, oh, last meeting.
Well, that says it all. Thank you. So Dr. Kleiman was a board member since 2019 for 4 years of service. And what stands out for me is your advocacy for all students with a focus on an equitable practices and an equitable lens. And also, you're consistently demonstrating a focus on high quality educational programs with sound data to support the decisions that we make. Throughout these years, we've been through quite a bit in the past 4 years, And I appreciate your insight during that time period for the district, but most of all, a reminder that you've always given, in that is the education of our students, and to make sure that we remind ourselves that we're here for our students and all students. So I thank you for your time served. As a board member, you're free to, you're free, yes, you do. You're free, you're free to go. Okay. I think there's one other person. Let's see. Mr. Daniel Kay. Mr. Kay, where to begin? So 2011, in 12 years. So the first thing I have to say is you've been on the board during my entire superintendency, and I believe that you should receive an award for that. That in itself was quite the task, I'm sure. And, you know, one thing I think about is that Mr. K bleeds Abington maroon. And as a graduate of Abington and family graduates of Abington, I often refer to you as Mr. Abington. And there's not too many events or Abington committees that you go to and Mr. K is not there. So all of you who've been around, I think you probably have been to more at this point than Woody. Close, maybe. But, you know, one thing that really stands out for me in thinking about all those years, and obviously you have accomplished a great deal during that time period, and we could go on and on all evening, but is the fact that you always stand up for the underdog, and you encourage our community to be peaceful and work together to accomplish many things. And that takes true leadership, and it's not an easy road to do that, and with bumps and bruises along the way. And I appreciate watching you over those years, and even not in my role as superintendent, and your advocacy for the underdog and making sure that we don't forget people, we don't forget things, and we fight for what is right. And I appreciate that about you, and I've appreciated many conversations over the years in all of my roles here at Abington thus far. So thank you for your service. This time, I'd like to ask Representative Ben Sanchez to come forward.
Well, thank you so much, President Brown, Dr. Fetcher, and Vice President Mowry, and all the other directors, and our esteemed audience, all the educators and the public. Thank you for having me here tonight. What an honor to be in front of you. So many of you I know personally and care for deeply. And sincere thanks to Dr. Kleiman and Director Glazer for your service on the board. I know, as Dr. Fetcher said, it is not an easy service, and we sincerely appreciate it in our community. And for my other dear friend here, Mr. Daniel Kay, it is an honor to be here to celebrate your retirement from the board. And I think of you in such loving terms, and the Mr. Abington term is not lost on me. You are I would describe you as mostly a lifelong resident, right, from early childhood on. I know you used to live not far from where you live now. You lived on Susquehanna Road and had on Vinegar Hill portion, had a very long driveway that as a young man he had to shovel in order to get to school at Abington. And when you couldn't cut through the back way in the building. So Abington alum here. For those of you that don't know it, Daniel was a journalist in a previous career, and also is a children's author, esteemed children's author, has read his books to my children at their schools, and also an artist, a truly gifted artist. And all of that helps manifest his day job career, where he takes such great care of our community seniors at Rydell Park. And we all know that Daniel, much like his career on the school board, he really puts his heart and soul into that job and to everything he really does. He truly puts others before himself, and almost to a fault. That we have to remind him sometimes to not to do that, and just so many of the things that he's been involved in, things that people don't see, and he'll probably get mad at me for saying this evening, the amount of food drives and clothing drives, coat drives that he's helped orchestrate and engineer and collect. And these are not things that he's getting paid to do at his job. He's just doing them because, as Dr. Fetcher noted, he likes to do what's right and all the time. And Daniel, we all know one of your greatest marks here has been have been a tireless champion for mental health and an advocate in that space. And I know you will continue that in your many things going forward. And we all know that you are a wonderful family man too. I know that your wife came out tonight to say goodnight, and also your son came, and you are a wonderful father, as many of us have witnessed over the years too. So thank you. And we know you're not done. I think Aiden was telling me you've joined about 17 other boards to to keep it up, and I know that you'll be staying involved with Eastern, your other love, so we can't thank you enough. So on behalf of a grateful Commonwealth, we have a legislative recognition for you, and I'll just read it in pertinent part to Daniel Sean Kay. In acknowledgement of your unwavering dedication and service to the Abington School District. Daniel has faithfully, conscientiously, and with excellence served Abington's community in the 12 years that he spent dedicated to all of the students and families in the Abington School District. He's fostered friendships and positive relationships with his generous and thoughtful nature. Daniel has successfully built a legacy in his years of service and in giving of his time and energy to others by being a leader in the Abington school community. Daniel truly exemplifies the best qualities of the human experience, and your spirit of giving and dedication has greatly impacted the lives of others. Daniel, on behalf of a grateful Commonwealth, we thank you.
Dr. Fetcher, does that conclude your announcements for this evening?
Yes.
For the beginning.
Yes, I do want to add that Mr. K will remain in all Abington schools as his book is in our libraries. So, there you go.
Excellent. Opening comments from our fellow board members, Mr. Allen.
That was all really tough to beat. But I will say, just in short, I echo all of that, but I'm really going to miss seeing you guys every other Tuesday for basically all year long. Because not only, you know, from the school board perspective, but also the friendship that I feel like I've grown with each of you. And in terms of the school board, I really appreciate like the three of your hearts in like what you do here. This is, if you look around in the other districts around the Commonwealth or in the country, it is like, it's just turmoil. And the three of you, you have proven that you care about kids. And I think that should be a prerequisite for school board seats. I know it's not everywhere, but the three of you have truly demonstrated that care, and it's an honor to sit here every other Tuesday at plus extra to work with you to serve the community. It's just been a joy. And I expect you to call in and come to public comment, you know.
Thank you, Ms. Frazier.
I'd just like to say that we have big shoes to fill.
Mr. K, do you mind if I get the three of you last? Is that okay? Dr. Maury?
Welcome to your final meeting. It's been an honor to serve with all three of you. Ms. Glaser, you came in, and I think Dr. Fetcher characterized everything accurately. You sort of, you know, fell seamlessly into the chair, and I've been grateful for your insights and your questions in the year that we've shared this dais together. So you will be missed. I hope you come back. I really do. I mean that. Daniel, I'm going to have to find someone new to pour water for now. Integrity leaps to mind. You have such a true moral compass, and are invariably thoughtful in your remarks, and you'll be missed a lot. We're grateful to your service. Tamar? Dr. Kleiman.
Dr. Maury.
It's been a remarkable 4 years. I can't imagine a more packed time together. And all along, I have been grateful for your deep expertise, especially during the pandemic, which helped us navigate a very difficult situation when we were new to the board. Your rigor and your wisdom. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fazy?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. So I just wanted to say what a pleasure and what an honor it's been to serve on this board with, Mr. K and Dr. Kleiman and Aaron, Ms. Glasser. Each one of you has brought so much to this, and your passion for children and for education has really shown. Aaron, I appreciate, that you care so much about, and that your passion is really in creating equitable access for all students. And Dr. Kleiman, I appreciate your candidates, and your dedication to sticking to what the evidence is, and asking great questions. And Mr. K, I appreciate your kindness always, and your wisdom. Like Ange said, there's going to be big shoes to fill, and you're all going to be missed. But I think that the school district is so much better for having your service. So thank you.
Mr. Muhammad?
Congratulations. Congratulations. It has been a great honor to serve with the three of you. I say it all the time. Right? I look for opportunities to learn when I engage with people, and these regular engagements with the three of you over the past year and 3 years, 2+ years, almost 2 years, has been a great learning experience for me. And so I thank you for setting fabulous examples, for bringing all of your experience and your energy and your passions and just deep insights, right? Deep insights, as it has made me a better director. And your work has made Abington and Rockledge a better source of education for young people. And I look forward to carrying on what you have exemplified in our time together. And I just thank you for your insights. I thank you for the laughter, right? I thank you for your friendship. And I look forward to continuing to build on the relationships that we've developed. We share this community, and I look forward to continuing to build. So, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Fetcher, anything else before I go? You said it all. You did a mic drop.
I think I've said enough.
All right, I'll start with Ms. Glasser. I've definitely been impressed with you from the time that you've taken the seat. I'll try not to repeat everything that has already been said because I 100% agree, but I will say that there has been more than a few people who have come and asked, is Aaron Glasser on the board? Because they know you have a heart for things like equitable access, and that means a lot. And I know for some, they may say, oh man, we're losing her, but please know that your passion for making sure that all students have access is something that we will continue to carry out. So thank you so much for living that out and being an inspiration and hope for people who really need to hear your voice. Okay? Dr. Kleiman, I'm going to miss you a lot. I'm trying to think of something that has not been said, and I'll say this. If it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Okay.
If people tune into our board, they'll look around, and some of the things that they'll notice is that there are people of color on the board, and that can't be said about all boards, right? They'll look and they'll see your red hair, and they'll say that's probably not something that they're used to seeing on the board. They may look at your octagon, is that 8? Octagon glasses, or try to judge, or the nose ring. And I'm pointing these things out for a reason. One, because I love it. I'm not trying to embarrass you. But I know there are students who need to know that your boldness and your intelligence, one does not have to be sacrificed for the other. You are intelligent, you are bold, and you have persevered through some very difficult times. And I am very, very proud to call you friend. So continue to rock out being bold. Do not let anyone take your voice away, because you are that model for students who may say, hey, do I belong here? Yeah, you do. And as you belong here, sit and take your seat and do it with pride and boldness. So thank you for being who you are. Okay? All right. Mr. K, what can I say that has not already been said? I just want to touch on service. I think service is at the core of who you are. And as someone who gives a lot of their time, you outdo me. You do. And your transparency, it makes some uncomfortable, and that's not your problem. It's not. It's theirs. There are so many other people who you give the freedom to say, hey, I have this going on with me, but guess what? There's hope. I can still serve. I can still give back to people. I can still be honest about my situation, right? And through that honesty, I can't even imagine how many people you have helped to just make it through another moment of another day. So please continue to be who you are and do not allow anyone to silence you just because they feel uncomfortable about what you're saying, because you are freeing up others to live and to continue to go on. So I'm also proud to call you friend and thank you for your service. Okay? And in that order, I'll go back around. Is there anything you would like to say, Ms. Glasser?
Well, it's funny. My husband asked if I had anything prepared, and I said, no, no. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to go quietly. I didn't realize there was going to be this whole thing going on tonight. So, but I will just say briefly, it has been a short tenure. However, it has been an honor and a privilege to serve, and I am a transplant to this area. I made a very strategic decision for my family to move here so that my daughter would have access to the things that she needed to thrive. And my only two requirements in the move was that we were close to the Children's Hospital and that we were in a good school district. And I am so grateful that my decision to move here and my confidence in being in the school district has only increased as a product of having served. And so I just feel incredibly grateful to have had this experience, to be here, to be a part of this community in a meaningful way, and to hopefully have made some, even if it's the smallest bit of positive impact on the lives of our children and on the people who serve our children. So thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you. Dr. Kleiman?
I too was not prepared, but no one has ever known me to not take an opportunity to speak ever in my life. You're welcome, everyone. This has been, a very calm, normal 4 years with no drama or concerns as a school board member or parent or community member or just a live human being. I think the past 4 years aged me about 120 years. It only looks like 140, but I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have served, particularly with this group of people, many of whom I reached out to on more than one occasion, asking could I please not be on the board anymore, and them telling me that that was not an option. And I'm grateful that you did. I'm looking at you particularly, Shamika, because I think you were the one who most often, you and Melissa probably most often called. I'm grateful that our salaries were tripled every year. Thank you, Dr. Fetcher, for that. I look forward to buying my house in the French Alps this year with the salary from the school board time. I've learned such a great deal over the past few years. And I wish that I could say that, not to say that what we do up here isn't important, but the things that go on every day for our kids would go on whether we were here or not. And for that, I'm very grateful. So I have no concerns about stepping down from the board. First of all, because I have faith in the board members who remain and those who will be joining those board members. But even more than that, I think I really believe in the administration and the faculty and the staff at Abington. And I'm really, I'm grateful for that as a board member, as a community member, as a taxpayer, and especially as a parent. So while this has been a difficult 4 years for me, and for all of us, I think, I envy and have great gratitude for the grace with which I think the whole district has managed some really difficult times. And I'm grateful that I got to sit in the seat and watch it. And it made me that much more confident in the work that everyone in this room and beyond does, regardless of who's sitting in these chairs. So I thank you all for that. And to my fellow board members, I will miss you. You will still see me. Apparently you can't miss me in a public place. So I look forward to continuing our relationships outside of the board, and I also look forward to not having to see your faces every 2 weeks. So thank you.
We'll come find you.
I know you will.
Mr. K.
All right, I came prepared. So I graduated Abington in 1985. My brother, my sisters, my nieces, nephews, my wife, my son, my friends, all graduated Abington. I was not a good student, partially because I suffered from terrible anxiety and depression when I was a teenager. It was undiagnosed for a really long time. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know why it was, but I was not successful. I was not happy. Funny thing is, the way this all began with me being on the board was a phone call from a board member who was a friend of my wife's who thought that I could do this. And I had never thought of it. It never occurred to me. But for some reason I said, sure, let's try it. And it was unbelievably difficult for me. It's very hard when you wear your heart on your sleeve and when you're worried about things all the time to come into a place where you have to kind of sit back and hear all sides and make decisions that you feel like, should I be making? And my first few years here were not happy years. However, one thing that made me happy was Jeff Fetcher. Jeff is an exceedingly kind, capable, competent, decent person. He is the person who should be running this district. And I hope for a very, very long time he runs this district if that is his choosing. In addition, people like Jim Melkor, who brought me into things and explained things to me that I needed to know. Chris Lionetti, who is just a wonderful, soft-spoken, strong backbone of this district as well. Justin, who gave me counsel and confidence, but friendship. And I could go on with this group of people here. The principals who I trust to do the most phenomenal job. The teachers who excel in ways that even they don't understand, the impact that they have on these children. Every person who works in these buildings, the work that you do as administrators, people who you go home at night thinking, did I make a difference? You did. You absolutely did every day of your life, whether you know it or not. This is an incredibly hard thing to help 8,500 children navigate life. There are going to be difficult times. There are going to be pitfalls. There are going to be problems. But you have such heart and such love for these kids and for the families and for Abington. And I can't thank you enough, being somebody who has been here for now 54 years. To get to the point where I could be a school board director, get elected the first time, was shocking to me and to my friends, who said, what? But to get reelected 4 years later, and to get reelected 4 years after that, especially with what has happened and what we had gone through, which was nothing I took for granted. The fact that when I've made errors, the community accepted an apology and moved on. The fact that when I didn't know things, that these people would take their time to help me understand it better. And the fact that we don't have 58,000 angry citizens coming. We don't. We have people who understand, who know, who work with us as best they can. And we want to work with them as best we can. There's a lot of love in Abington. To my fellow board members, you have no idea what a breath of fresh air you are and how much you've raised me up and that you've given, well, Tamar knows. But the rest of you have no idea. When you can laugh in a room and talk freely and explain things and ask questions and be a part of things, it is unbelievably freeing, but it makes you feel like this matters. To meet people like Ben Sanchez, who's become such a good friend, and Karen Sanchez, who's become such a good friend, you know, it shows me these are people who believe in what we're doing and what you're doing here. There's an old Yiddish term that roughly translates into man plans and God laughs. I feel like sometimes that's what we have all the time here. We're planning for things, we're working at things, we're hoping, and then God says, yeah, really? Here's something. A pandemic? Seriously, a pandemic? I can't even believe we navigated that. The changes that we live in a society that now sees words as like diversity and inclusion as bad words sometimes. It stuns me, but we're going to get through that. Somehow we're going to get through that. It's been 12 years. I wrote down at least 264 meetings, 792 hours, and that doesn't count all the extras we did. And as frustrating as it was at times and scary and exhausting, I wouldn't change it, because my hope is that somewhere out there are a bunch of kids who are going to do a little bit better because of decisions we all made together, and we're never even going to know it. You know, there's nothing more hopeful than an old person planting a tree. And I feel like I'm an old person who helped plant a tree. So thank you for the kindness of tonight, for making this night special for me. And it truly was. And as like you all said, I mean, I'm on so many other boards, I'll still be around. But thank you, and also to all of you who had the patience, who were coming here just to hear a meeting and then hear us all blather on about things. Thank you for patiently letting us excel for a few minutes over our years here. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and I will see you soon.
We still have work to do tonight.
We do. We do.
We do.
But it is worthwhile to give people their flowers.
Yes.
The colleagues, we work hard, and we don't always get it 100% right? So thank you for your patience. Dr. Fetcher, can you please proceed with this evening's orientation?
Yes, Ms. Brown. Our first orientation of the evening, I'm going to ask Mr. Christopher Lionetti, along with Ms. Audrey Bear from our financial advisor with Piper Sandler, to review proposed general obligation bond series 2024.
Thank you, Dr. Fetcher. As you stated, with us this evening is Ms. Audrey Bear, Managing Director of Public Finance Investment Banking with Piper Sandler Company. Agenda item 10.1 asks for the board's authorization to assemble the district's bond team to investigate and develop a prospectus for issuing general obligation bonds. General obligation bonds are long-term debt instruments that we would like to use to fund capital projects. The bond team consists of our financial advisor, Ms. Bear, bond counsel, Attorney George Magnotta with Saul Ewing, our solicitor, superintendent, and chief financial officer. Most of this team has been together since 2014. Since 1992, the district has issued $234 million of bonds for capital projects and refinanced those bonds multiple times to achieve debt reduction. As you are aware, the district has undertaken a facilities condition assessment, and we are identifying $14.5 million of specific projects that we would like to commence this summer that include flooring, HVAC, playgrounds, roofs, and system controls projects. At this time, I ask Ms. Baer to share with you information regarding the proposed 2024 general obligation bonds.
It's not fair to talk about money after all that retirement talk. I'm sorry, but bear with me. I'm not as interesting as that. You see on the screen, this is a history of bond rates, and more so than the exact rates that you're seeing on the chart, because this is a national average, is the trend. And you'll see there's a drop during COVID, hit all-time lows. No matter how far back we take the chart, the rates get higher. So we did hit all-time lows. So yes, rates have increased a lot in the last year or so, but still, comparatively speaking, it's not a terrible time for municipal bond interest rates. This page shows 4 columns, and the 5th column on the right is a total. Each column is an outstanding bond payment that you have. Each row is a school year. In the column, there's 2 interest and 1 principal payment in each figure. They're just added together to keep it simple with 4 columns. These are all fixed rate. If you do nothing, these are your payments going forward. The key on there is the total column on the right. I'll point you to that $11.5 million figure that's in your budget for the school year we are in now. This page looks very similar in format, and it is. It's the same 4 bond issues. These numbers are after your Plan Con reimbursement from the Department of Ed. See, I put you down already. So these payments, you make the gross payments, you receive a reimbursement from the Department of Ed, and this is the difference that you have in your local budget. The important part on this page, again, is that total on the far right. I want you to notice top row is the current school year. You'll see the total figure there, $10.6 million. That's in your budget. They're all fixed payments. That's been there for years. And you'll notice if you look down that column, the total column, the aggregate of all your bond issues, those payments in the next couple of years start to drop off. That creates a wonderful opportunity for you, and it was planned that way. I'm going to go to the next page, but keep in mind that 10.6 figure that you have in your budget for this year. This is what if. What if you borrowed $15 million in the beginning of 2024, at some point in the beginning of calendar year 2024, and you had payments starting in school year, the next school year. So the first row is still the current school year. You have your existing payment, the 11.5, and you come across to the right, you see the 10.6 that we were talking about after your Plan Con reimbursement. The next row, next school year. If you look to column 3, you see there's a new payment there, $813,000. That would be a principal and interest payment. What if to finance the $15 million in projects you just heard about? Coming across again to the total column, 7, on the far right, the most important number is what's the effect to the budget? Well, you see you're going from $10,691,000 to 10.7. And if you go down column 7, you'll notice you have $10.7 million in payments for a couple of years, and then it drops to 9.7. So you could finance the $15 million of projects that were just shown to you a few moments ago without budget impact because of the existing drop in your payments. It's designed that way. We knew at some point you were going to have future needs, so you want to build that into your budget. And you notice, again, on column 7, you stay at the $9.7 million total payment. That's all the payments you have outstanding now, the 4 we talked about, plus a new payment for $15 million, and it ends in school year 44 at the bottom. You see on the screen a timeline of if and when you decided to move ahead with borrowing funds, what kind of procedures and steps that happen and board action. overall, you need 2 to 3 months from the time you say, we have projects, we want to move ahead, we have board meetings, authorization, till the money hits your bank account.
Thank you, Ms. Bear. As already mentioned, this process starts tonight with your authorization and agenda item 10. We anticipate a status update in the February timeframe, and we will request authorization to issue the bonds, incur the debt, and obtain the funds for capital projects in the March to April timeframe. If there are any questions at this time, Ms. Bear and I will be happy to address them as best we can.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? The mics are open.
Yes, if you go back, I believe it was the first or second slide that had the information regarding needs. And if we could just get a brief discussion of the needs that we've shared a few times in several meetings, just to remind the public of what's going on in the various buildings around the district.
So in general, as you know, we've completed a facilities condition assessment, and most of the needs that are here, and I'm going to ask Mr. Berge to expand on that, but most of the needs that are here are within that immediate time frame. So the facilities condition assessment looked at anywhere from current time to about 10 years out. And these are the, what I would say, emergency things that need to be done right away and can't be put off. I don't know if you want to expand on that, Mr. Berge.
Yes, the bond, and one thing we're looking at is accessibility of playgrounds. So a plan for the bond would be playground work within the next 2 years to upgrade the playgrounds. Beyond that, we have identified things through the facilities assessment, but we're also planning to issue an RFP for a GIZA project. What that would be, companies would come in and analyze, and they would say, you're planning this and you're pointing to this as being a need, but wait, maybe we can serve you better by doing this. That would be the next step. So those needs that you saw there are from our 10-year plan, immediate needs that we have. I have addressed in the past, I see immediate needs, but we're going to have a company come in and confirm those. So we don't know exactly, beyond the playground, we don't know exactly what those needs are at this time, but that's a good idea what they are.
I just wanted to ask a quick question about, I think it's the fourth slide with the interest rates, the graph. So right now, interest rates for bonds are roughly where they were in 2018. Am I reading that
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes, you are.
And is your feeling that those interest rates are on the upswing, or they're just going to kind of wiggle around roughly in the same neighborhood for a bit?
Well, now I wish I knew that answer.
Don't we all? But
Really?
generally.
Generally, the anticipation from the economic research folks, which is not me,
Okay.
okay, is that rates are going to stay where they are within reason, maybe a slightly higher over
Okay.
the next couple of quarters.
Okay.
Yes, without a pandemic or something major. Right. That's what makes the big changes. A war, a pandemic, that's when you see a big jump at one time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And if I may add, one of the reasons I mentioned on the one slide is that we would come back sometime in the February timeframe, was again specifically to see where interest rates are before we get to the point where we're going out to the market.
Okay.
So
Great.
That's our plan.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments?
I just have one more question in terms of implementation. So if we were to approve this and the money was available for these projects, what is the timeline for implementation for these things? How soon would this happen?
Do you want to review first? Tonight would be just to assemble the team.
Oh, it's just, okay.
Yeah, it's not, and to investigate this as a possibility. And the time frame, if that is approved this evening to assemble the team, this would be the typical time frame that's listed up there.
Are you asking about the timeline with the financing or the construction?
The construction.
Construction.
Okay, we have had some discussion as to what the time frame would be and what can be done. One of the challenges is you want to most often do the construction during the summer months. To do that, you pretty much have to have the projects out to bid by the November time frame, between November and February. Some of the work, the playgrounds, till we are looking at doing all the playgrounds, and we've shared that in the past, that design work is incomplete. That work for the playgrounds probably will not occur before the summer of 2025. There is a possibility it may be able to stage in over the school year. We're still looking at that. The Giza project and that work, roof projects can happen quicker. They don't have lead time for materials. So if we do roof, if we do carpets, there may be time for the summer to do some of that. That's going to be identified as we identify the needs. The HVAC work, a lot of that equipment takes design, that takes long lead times on equipment. So that would probably be the summer of 2025 as well. Some of the work potentially could happen during the school year, as long as we could maintain temperatures and everything in the buildings.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Thank you for the orientation. Dr. Fetcher, does that conclude our orientations for this evening?
No, it does not. We have another orientation this evening. I'm going to ask that Mr. Daniel File, principal of Abington Middle School, Mr. James Lodwick, supervisor of teaching and learning, Ms. Janine Sack, supervisor of literacy, along with Ms. Lisa Bodine and Ms. Erica Affleck, who are Abington Middle School English teachers, to provide an orientation on Abington Middle School's literacy achievement.
Good evening, Mrs. Brown, Dr. Fetcher, and members of the board. Our team's presentation this evening is intended to provide you information about the middle school's English Language Arts program. In this presentation, we'll include information about how we monitor student progress, how we use data throughout the year in our short and long-term planning for instruction. We will begin by giving you information about our ELA program.
Good evening. Abington Middle School continually strives to improve our academic programming. We do this by analyzing student achievement, gathering qualitative feedback from students and teachers, and examining current research on evidence-based practices. In fall of 2020, in an effort to bolster engagement within the library, we eliminated outdated and damaged items to update the age of the library collection, modernize the physical space to improve access to items and create an inviting learning environment, and increase the digital resources available. Further, knowing that each child had unique needs coming out of virtual learning, we introduced 2 supplemental programs targeted at ELA skills. These programs emphasize different ELA skills such as genre comparison, author's purpose and tone, text structure, and context clues. In fall of 2021, in an effort to promote reading, a committee was formed to work in collaboration with the Equity Committee to review and recommend culturally diverse novels. The novels that were adopted created opportunities for all of our students to see themselves in the texts and make for a more enjoyable reading experience for all kids. Further, knowing that students have demonstrated continued needs, we introduced one additional supplemental program, Quill. This program emphasizes practice in areas such as sentence combining, proofreading, and grammar. Finally, in fall of 2022, as part of the reconfiguration of grade spans, Abington Middle School revised the curriculum, adopted Study Sync along with additional novels, and modified the schedule to include regular library visits, implement What I Need or WIN time, and establish an integrated English language arts block. The Study Sync program was selected based on the wide range of engaging, diverse, and contemporary literary texts it contains. The committee recognized the need to infuse more interesting works that would get students excited about reading. As we looked at several programs, we realized that Study Sync was the most comprehensive, skills-based program available that provided a wide variety of full-length novel choices. The committee determined that this program would be an outstanding replacement for our previous anthology, Elements of Literature, published in 2009. Study Sync received school board approval in April of 2022. The integrated English language arts block mirrors the elementary model in that reading, writing, speaking, and listening are all taught by one teacher within one classroom. To make this occur, in grades 7 and 8, separate courses such as English and reading across the curriculum were combined. The shift increased the instructional minutes for ELA in grades 7 and 8 and decreased the minutes in grade 6. The shift in instructional minutes, in conjunction with modifications in other areas, provided increased opportunities for 6th grade students in other areas. For example, students now have the opportunity to attend science and social studies every other day. They can begin exposure to world languages and can also enroll in other electives, including classes in art and music. The middle school curriculum is focused on thematic units at each grade level. The example on this slide is for grade 8, which includes 4 thematic units. Within each unit, students engage in a variety of texts, highlighting different genres and perspectives. In the 4th unit of grade 8, for example, students will read The Diary of a Young Girl, full text, Elie Wiesel's Nobel Prize acceptance speech, excerpts from The Diary of Anne Frank, Farewell to Manzanar, a true story of life in a Japanese-American internment camp, Refugee, an adolescent literature book that revolves around 3 main characters from 3 different eras, a child fleeing Nazi Germany in 1930, a child fleeing Cuba in 1994, and a child fleeing Syria in 2015. Also, Long Walk to Freedom, which is Nelson Mandela's memoir. Each unit takes an integrated approach to reading and writing routines that include direct instruction in grammar and vocabulary acquisition. To supplement the core instructional program, Abington Middle School also utilizes 3 online programs. IXL Learning is an online adaptive program that differentiates learning by generating questions based on students' understanding of the material, helping them build on their current knowledge and remediate any gaps in understanding. Newsella is an online program that provides supplemental text that allows students to build background knowledge, draw personal connections to text, build academic and literary vocabulary, explore cross-curricular connections, and engage more in their learning. Quill is an online education platform that provides interactive writing and grammar lessons. These programs are often assigned during WIN, or What I Need time. During this time, students rotate through 4 different stations, working in small groups with their teacher, collaboratively with other students, reading silently, and engaging in online activities. The adaptive nature of these programs allows teachers to provide students exactly what they need. At this time, Ms. Janine Sack, Supervisor of Literacy, will discuss library programming and resources.
Thank you. Our district libraries are a hub of wonderful activity throughout the school year. Annually, district librarians review the collection age and development, analyzing circulation trends and areas of interest for students. Student interest in allowing for student choice is prioritized in collection development, as it is clear when selections are available, this has a positive impact on circulation and literacy achievement. While regularly scheduled visits to the library have been part of the specials rotation for many years in grades K through 6, during the 22-23 school year, we added grades 7 and 8 to regularly scheduled library visitation. At Abington Middle School in grade 6, students attend library during their Pathways class during a planned rotation. In grade 7 and 8, they attend the library monthly during their ELA class. Prior to this change, classes visited based on individual teachers' schedules. During these visits, the focus of library instruction includes annual orientation and cyber safety lessons, as well as book selection, catalog instruction, genre study and genre exposures, research databases, and digital books. Promoting the love of reading is a priority for district libraries. To that end, librarians plan reading incentives, book fairs, and author visits to support the love of reading. They engage all students and positively impact literacy achievement. Book bingo, reading and multicultural night, African American read-in, and battle the books are few examples of the school-wide reading incentives in the Abington School District. Secondly, school-wide book fairs are regularly planned to promote student choice in getting books into the hands of our students. Further, inspiring author visits are scheduled annually to generate excitement about reading books and motivate students to be creative writers. Most recently, authors Audrey Vernick and Les Garton Scanlon visited Overlook Elementary, and author Matthew Landis is scheduled to visit Abington Middle School in the spring. Finally, libraries are also a hub of community-based activities. The library has hosted guest speakers for elective classes and through career chatter at the secondary level. Most recently, Katie Catro, an Abington alum and reporter from 6ABC, came and spoke to students enrolled in a media literacy elective. Other hosted events included activities for DECA, a prominent business and entrepreneurship club, and a meet and greet for the interim principal. The district libraries are resourced with a variety of books, both digital and print, magazines and periodicals, and online databases. Professional memberships support our librarians' professional learning and access to professional resources. You will see noted on the slide are a summary of budget allocations for these specific resources for the 23-24 school year. And now Mr. Logue will share how we monitor student progress.
At Abington Middle School, we monitor student progress using multiple measures. 3 that we will highlight this evening include the PSSA, Linkit Benchmarks A, B, and C, and Study Sync unit assessments. Each of these measures provide insight into an individual student's progress toward grade level expectations. The first set of data we will review this evening is PSSA by grade level. This slide displays the data for grade 6 from 2018-19 school year to the present. The dotted line between 2018 and 19 indicates a gap in testing due to the COVID-19 pandemic. To provide context, we have provided a comparison set of data provided by the Department of Education in November 2023. The Abington data displayed is based on internal data and includes test takers only. There is no accounting on this slide for students who did not test. While Abington students are outperforming their peers across the state, we recognize the declining scores. This table shows the grade 6 disaggregated PSSA scores for the 2021-22 and 2022-23 school years, their percentage change, and state averages. Again, Abington students are outperforming their peers statewide. We recognize decreases in several subgroups, including Black students and students with IEPs. In 7th grade, we see an improvement in scores from 2021-22 to 22-23 by 3%. This table shows the grade 7 disaggregated PSSA scores for the 2021-22 and 22-23 school years, the percent change, and the state averages. In grade 7, we see improvements in some subgroups with an 18% increase for students with IEPs as well as an 8% increase for economically disadvantaged students. In grade 8, In grade 8, we see an improvement in scores over the past 2 years. This table shows the grade 8 disaggregated PSSA scores for the 2021-22 and 2022-23 school years. The percent change, the percent change and the state averages. In grade 8, Abington students are outperforming their peers statewide in these disaggregate groups, except IEP students. We also recognize decreases in subgroups, including Black students, when compared to the previous year's achievement. At this time, Ms. Sack is going to share information about additional measures that we use to monitor student progress.
As we shared earlier in this presentation, Abington Middle School uses multiple measures to monitor student progress. The data we have provided so far is focused on the PSSA exam and end-of-year assessment of grade level expectations. Within our English Language Arts program, we also use benchmark and unit assessments to monitor student progress. These assessments allow teachers to make informed decisions about instruction by identifying areas of need for future learning and proficiency towards end-of-year goals. This chart you see displayed illustrates the percentage of students who were advanced or proficient on the Linkit benchmark assessments. This represents data on all students. Performance on the benchmark indicates progress toward grade level standards. During the 22-23 school year, data shows that the most growth from benchmark A to C was observed in grade 8. Subsequently, less growth was observed in grade 7 and moderate growth was observed in grade 8. This data is used to determine students' current progress and also identify areas for growth. Ms. Lisa Bodine, a grade 8 English Language Arts teacher at Abington Middle School, will now discuss how teachers use the information in the benchmark assessments to monitor and support student learning.
This chart represents one classroom of students and how they performed on each standard from the beginning of year on Form A to the end of the year on Form B. This information is used by teachers after each benchmark to determine a starting point and progress towards grade level standards and proficiency levels. In this case, students grew from benchmark A to C across all standards. Notably, there was significant growth in students' abilities to analyze the author's use of text structure and determine the use of words and phrases, including interpretation of figurative language in context. Typically, teachers and reading specialists use this information to plan and organize lessons in units of study. During the year when teachers observe a standards performance decrease, the teachers and reading specialists use spotlight skills, supplemental resources, and reading strategies to improve student performance. Now Ms. Erica Affleck, reading specialist at Abington Middle School, will share with you how we monitor and respond to growth patterns and trends as observed on the benchmark assessments.
Another example of how benchmark data is used to inform instruction is through collaboration meetings between classroom teachers and reading specialists, which take place 3 times each school year. For example, in February 2023, English Language Arts teachers and reading specialists examined the benchmark performance data at the classroom level during collaboration meetings. Student progress was monitored in comparison to the expected growth between benchmark A and benchmark B. The chart displayed is an example of one section's performance review in grade 8. In this image, students were grouped according to growth, and the shading represents their proficiency level. Column A represents the student's score on benchmark A, and column B represents the student's score on benchmark B. Scores listed are the percent correct, and the raw data score is in parentheses. This data provided the educators with trends, and as a result, teachers and reading specialists discussed plans to respond with instruction lessons for WIN and CORE. One of the school-wide trends evident in February was that it was necessary to provide small group instruction to our proficient and advanced students because the evidence showed that they were not growing at the rate expected. This information allowed teachers to analyze the impact of both core and support instruction and consider differentiated instruction for specific students in order to make expected growth. As the needs of students continue to be complex, teachers brainstorm targeted interventions based on patterns of their students to increase progress in student performance. In October of 2023, collaboration meetings were again scheduled, and ELA teachers, reading specialists, and gifted support teachers reviewed the data from Form A. The focus of these meetings was centered on performance trends of proficiency level groups and plans for tiered grouping during WIN time. An additional outcome of the meetings was a method to support student engagement with goal-setting opportunities related to both growth and monthly progress. WIN lessons implemented by both ELA teachers and reading specialists were also adjusted based on these discussions. Now Mr. Lodwick will share how we monitor progress with local assessments.
Thank you. We also monitor student progress through an assortment of local assessments. Within each unit, students engage in a series of short and extended writing assignments. The writing assignments are designed to coincide with the reading selections for each unit of study, and these reflect the various genres such as novels, plays, and poetry. Students engage in a variety of writing experiences throughout the year that build their skills. Teachers administer quizzes throughout each unit to monitor student progress. These quizzes focus on reading comprehension, grammar skills, and vocabulary acquisition. Quizzes provide timely feedback to teachers that they can immediately act on to target the needs of all of their students. The unit tests are rigorous assessments that evaluate standards-based skills using a variety of diverse text selections and genres. Students answer multiple choice, open-ended response, and dynamic question types. Administrators and teachers use them to analyze, use item analysis to identify trends, determine performance strengths and weaknesses, and assist in planning for WIN set lessons and reteaching.
Among the areas of focus for the year in our building action plan, our teachers are working on enhancing the consistency of reading and writing across the curriculum. For instance, in social studies, teachers are infusing content area reading and writing strategies when comprehending and analyzing primary documents. There's also a more unified approach to writing instruction within the ELA classroom. There's a concerted effort to offer students more meaningful and timely feedback in their writing. ELA teachers do this during regular instruction as well as WIN time. Further, they facilitate opportunities for peer review. Teachers have implemented a variety of opportunities for students to discuss and analyze literature during text talk activities in their classes. Students share their thoughts and interpretations of text they are reading. These discussions provide students with an outstanding opportunity to develop and practice higher-level thinking and problem-solving skills. When designing lessons, teachers are increasing their implementation of universal design for learning. By planning this way, teachers are better able to account for individual differences and address the needs of all students through differentiated instruction and other strategies to better access the curriculum. Using a multi-tiered system of support, teachers use data-driven decision-making to determine specific supports to improve student outcomes. For example, teams utilize Lincoln's grouping models to examine both benchmark and unit assessments for patterns of progress, areas of deficit, and assignment of tier groups. These are some of the other components of our building plan that address continued learning in our English language arts classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Mics are open.
Yeah, a couple of things. I'm affiliated with a school that has a very diverse population. They're up to 265 different languages. And the eighth graders have read Refugee, which is a book that you guys, that was on the list. I'm 3/4 of the way. I have a quarter left to read. It's very, very wonderful. I've had students come up of all different ethnic groups, and they'll say, "You're reading Refugee." I mean, they get extremely excited, no matter where they're from in the world. And so parents, adults here, to give you further insight on, refugees or the lives and the experiences that some of our kids have been exposed to, it's a great book to read. Second, I noticed that I didn't see any scores for the Hispanic population. I said the white, the black, and Asian, and I was just curious about that. The first slide or second slide?
Dr. Butts.
So one of the things that we notice with our Hispanic population, there are two things. One is the N counts, and reporting on them, they are very low and variable. So at this particular, because we didn't give you building level data, which we did before, but we gave you grade level data, the N counts are actually lower.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation and the level of detail that you gave us, as well as your transparency about some of the areas that some of the cohorts that are struggling with the ELA stuff. I think it's important to be honest about that. So I can't remember which slide it was, but I wanted to ask you more about the sixth graders, because when we saw the proposal for the grade span reconfiguration for the middle school, there was a conversation about truncating the amount of reading instruction that sixth graders were going to get coming into the building. And I remember specifically raising some concerns about that, because that's a testing year for them. And the explanation, which I think got repeated here today, is that there's been expanded reading instruction in 7th and 8th grade, but it still doesn't address the 6th graders. So I guess one question I have is there any thought to revisiting the amount of instructional minutes the 6th graders are getting? Because they seem to be the ones who are struggling the most at the grade level anyways. I don't know who answers that.
A number of people can answer, but it looks like Mr. File is stepping up.
I think we can all give a different perspective on this. I think, speaking on the building level, we've been very reflective of a number of components with our new schedule. As you know, we finished year one last year, and I will say that the teacher feedback, at least, that we received was not plentiful in that area. I certainly hear what you're saying. We discussed, when creating the schedule, the implications of every decision we were going to be making with every area. You could lose this, you could lose that. Staffing could have an impact of this or that. So there are so many different factors. I think for me, at the end of the day, we may need, I'm not a statistician, so let me say that. I was an English teacher. So we may need at least another year or two, I think, to give a more informed answer. However, I certainly would defer to Dr. Fetcher in terms of the need and a timeline to reflect on that. But, my attitude is, anything's possible, should that be the desired outcome. I don't know if anybody else would like to add on.
Yeah, I think ultimately, and this is with the grade span reconfiguration, I know we're focused on one building in general this evening, but I do recall the conversation that we had at the time in looking at specifically the minutes. And I think with every program change that we've had over the past year, specifically at the secondary level, there have been a lot of changes in schedules and times, as well as changes at the elementary school, but specifically at the secondary level. And one of the things that I've asked on a continual basis of our building administration in both of those buildings is to evaluate and get feedback. Ultimately, I think the feedback that really helps us is from those who are in the classroom teaching and know the structure of what's going on in their classroom, know how does time working for them and what material is being delivered. I also think from a challenge that I have given to our teaching and learning department is to look at our pacing and material guides throughout the year in terms of time. Do we have enough time in the day to do everything we set out to do? So I do think that it is a continual examination of that. And I do feel that one of the things we have to do is look at these particular scores and see the impact of what we do in the classroom and time-wise in that classroom, and is that having an effect on that? And I do think that analysis, should be ongoing. And if we were to find that that is the reason for the decrease, I definitely would ask the building administration and to work with teaching and learning to examine the schedule as a whole, and are definitely not opposed to any tweaks we may have to do in the schedule to meet these needs.
I also neglected to point out the obvious, which I know the board is all aware of, that we just have begun our second year with a new program. So, in terms of teachers' level of comfort, I think also speaking to Dr. Fetcher's point, getting a better sense of pacing and the assessments and just kind of getting a handle on that. I know from my own experience teaching something 3 times, I feel really, really proficient. And, the first time is not my best, hasn't been my best year teaching something. So I think that's an obvious consideration to put out there, but I do think that it is, it's a real variable in the conversation.
Any additional questions or comments?
Yeah. I got 2 more.
Problem.
Okay. So one of the other questions I had was, what kind of professional development teachers are getting in writing across the curriculum?
So I can speak to that. A couple of things on the table that are in progress but have already been done. Our social studies teachers participate in DBQs and have received previous professional development in that area. That helps our students analyze primary sources and respond in writing, and that has already been in play. We are looking at, as you may already know, we have a responsibility this year to provide structured literacy professional development, and one of the components of emphasis for our secondary level is writing across the curriculum. So we will be participating in professional development this year with that in mind. Our social studies teachers have been working on strategies that are if you will, comprehension strategies for nonfiction. They've been looking and being mindful in their planning and organizing with their supervisor of social studies, Mr. Scott Berger, to provide them with the strategies that are necessary to implement those lessons. So those are some things that are in progress.
Just for people who are unfamiliar with the acronym, DBQ is document-based question, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry. I meant to say it and I lost it. Sorry. Yes, document-based questions. Correct.
Okay, and then the third question I had was about the library budget. So $83,112 K through 12.
This is, Ms. Sack, can you review, can we go back to that slide?
Yes. 15, or no, not 15. I don't know what it is. Thank you.
Yes, this does reflect the K to 12 allocation of resources.
How many students do we have in the district?
8,600.
That's sufficient?
I think that one thing I want to say is this represents a piece of all the components. So classroom libraries, for example, are not included in this. Personnel is not included. If you asked me, could we always use more of a budget for resources in the library, my answer is always going to be yes, of course. But I think it's important to note that this is new resources added to a collection that has been established for however many years as well.
Right, but didn't we just learn that the collections were weeded out? So it's not purely sedimentary.
Right.
At the time that, when we described the overhaul that was done at the middle school library, at the time of that, if you had been in there, there were 9 or so stacks to the ceiling, and I believe we had 37,000 titles on the shelves in the library. So the age of that collection was in the 80s, 1980s. We had several titles, thousands of titles that were not in use. And we have refurbished many titles over the last 4 years.
I'm not, okay.
I
I'm
have
done.
a question. So I'm looking at slide 4, which provides some details around the curricular decisions that have been made. And I love the thematic units. I love the questions that drive the thematic units. I'm looking at the detailed examples because it's the only place where there are some details around novel selections that are explicitly in the curriculum. And I just have a question around where are the, if not in this grade or within this particular unit, where are the novels that specifically speak to the African American experience?
Well, I can speak to, there are 2 sets of novels that we've been adopting. When we adopted Study Sync, we also adopted all the novels that go along with the Study Sync collection. So I can just give you an example of, let me start with the Equity Committee, the novels that we adopted a few years ago. So when we worked with the Equity Committee, we decided that we wanted to adopt at least 2 new titles per grade level, 6 through 12. So, for example, in grade 6, we adopted Esperanza Rising and Finding Langston. In grade 7, we adopted A Long Walk to Water and The Crossover by Kwame Alexander. And in grade 8, we adopted The Other Wes Moore and The Poet X. And I can list the other 9 through 12, but we're just focusing on the middle school. So when we first set out to do that, we were hoping that that would be every year we would adopt 2 new culturally responsive novels at each grade level. But when we adopted Study Sync, they came with their own set of novels that go with each of the themes. So the example that's up on the board gives you an idea of what the novels go with that. I can tell you the full-length novels that go with that particular unit. It would be Unit 4, Grade 8, Unit 5. Right? Oh, Trying Times, okay. So the full-length novels that go with that are Anne Frank and Refugee. If you look at Unit 4, Across 5 Aprils, Little Women, Tom Sawyer, and The Poet X. So what we tried to do is infuse the novels that we adopted through the Equity Committee into the themes that go with Study Sync. So each one of the Study Sync units for grades, because we have 6 units per grade, we have 3 or 4 novel choices for teachers to select from those from our list of full-length novels that they can do in addition to the Study Sync unit. I'm not sure whether that answers your specific question, but we have made a conscious effort not only to adopt novels that reflect the African American experience, but all experiences. Like we've tried to really increase our equity across the board so that all students can see themselves. And that was really a driving force for me when I was looking at Study Sync, because not only were we looking at full-length novels, but we were also looking at the excerpts that come with the program to give students a wide variety of titles and literary experiences that could open their eyes to reading, because we were really trying to get kids interested in reading and seeing themselves. I mean, that was really the focus for the last couple of years.
Thank you for that. And so you said there's sort of a choice, a menu
Yes.
of full-length novels.
Yes. And
Teachers or departments, who's making those decisions?
well, we've outlined. We give the teachers each unit of Study Sync, we give them 3 or 4 to choose from that fit into that theme, but we also have a wide range of novels that they can choose from. If they choose not to do one of those, they can actually do a novel that's completely separate from the theme that they're working in Study Sync on. So we have plenty of novels for them to choose from, but we actually encourage them to use at least one of the novels from the Equity Committee adoption.
All right, I understand that. Thank you. I would just love to get a sense of what novels are being chosen, and where there might be gaps based on the novels.
I can absolutely get you that list, because I have that list. I
I'd
know
like to see
exactly
that,
which
too.
I know exactly which novels each of the teachers are going to do by grade level for the rest of this year, because I asked them to let me know which novels they were going to choose.
Thank you. And one other, just like a thought. There's opportunity in social studies for the use of nonfiction and fiction text.
Yes.
And there's spaces where you can drop some of those novels.
Right.
there.
Yeah, and with the writing across the curriculum, we're also looking at reading across the curriculum. So and social studies has actually been a great help to us, both at the middle school and the high school level, in terms of nonfiction, because that's an area that we really love the cooperation that we get from social studies in that area too.
The fiction as well.
Yeah, there's fiction, but I mean, as far as for PSSA and Keystone,
Thank you.
Dr. Fetcher, would you mind if we ask one of the teachers to just elaborate on Mr. Muhammad's question? Is that okay? Ms. Affleck?
So one of the things that is true within Study Sync is that their units are going to provide diverse texts within their unit. So regardless of which novel you select to do, the diverse texts are embedded within the unit. I would say that, most teachers, probably all teachers, chose to teach a diverse text throughout the year. Finding Langston was a really popular choice in 6th grade. They also had A Long Walk to Water. I think every one of our grade 7 students read the crossover last year. So although there's a lot of choice, a lot of those tend to be the popular choices, just to kind of give you that frame of reference.
Any additional questions or comments from the board?
I had two questions. Last session, we saw a presentation in which there seemed to be quite a bit of growth from last year to this year or the subsequent year, between the most recent 2 years that we can measure, there seemed to be growth, which was exciting to see. In this presentation, it tells a slightly different story now that we've disaggregated the information in a different way. So I'm interested to understand a little bit more, to what extent do we understand what is contributing to the growth that we are seeing? And if we know that, where are the places in which we're hoping to do more? Because I see that we're throwing a lot at this challenge. We have IXL, we have Quill, we have StudySync, we have many, many things. And so to what extent do we actually understand what is making a significant impact?
I think what in each unit of instruction, we've been very observant of what is happening on our unit assessments to see what the trends are. The item analysis work that we do really gives us an understanding of what we need to pitch back to our teachers, saying this is what we're noticing, this is what the trends are, and how are we going to respond. We use our MTSS process as another layer of intervention so that our teams are looking at the whole picture of the child to see where we might need to provide additional supports. The adjustment to the close reading routine has been definitely something that is eye-opening for all of us, because the way our program is designed, the front loading is not what we want them to do. We want them to learn, how do I attack this text? What do I do without any preloading, and give it all to them? So, and I think that's the one thing that we've noticed, adjusting that and really getting that routine down for our students is really impactful. The fourth part of the routine is the final write, where they're really responding and they're breaking down text. That is something that requires multiple opportunities and practice. And so what we're noticing is when we do provide the students with that multiple opportunities of practice plus the feedback, we're seeing them respond. And we're committed to that. And I think that our teachers provide us feedback on how each of our close reads are going. They provide us feedback on how the instructional essays are going. They provide us feedback on how the final essay goes. And I think all of that qualitative information has really been helpful in designing, well, this is what we did last year, and these were the results. And the units, even Unit 1's instruction, the WIN lessons provided by our reading specialist team were completely adjusted based on this is what happened during Unit 1 last year, and that was the final result at the end of the year. So I think that we're very in tune to how the students responded to our instruction last year, and we're being very mindful in planning and organizing our instructional response.
Thank you very much. And my last question is, in looking at the various demographics, we see gaps in achievement by race and by IEP. What are we doing to address and eliminate those gaps that we're seeing?
So I can start, and I don't know if Mr. File wants to add on. I can say that the graph that we presented, that Ms. Affleck presented, where we were showing, this is a look that we really have not ever looked at in our classroom data and our achievement data before. This tells a story of not just how many students were proficient or how many students were advanced, but it actually tells you the length of the growth that was happening during a particular period of time. And when we get to this level of this is how our students are doing, then we actually have a plan that is targeted to groups of students who are similar, groups of students who are not making the same types of progress. With that kind of knowledge, we have a toolkit to respond to that. And so I think that when we're looking at the data in this way, this is a more sophisticated level that we've ever done, and I think that's been really helpful in honing in on, now we know, now what are we going to do about it? I don't know if you wanted to. Yeah.
Thank you. So just a little bit further on the classroom level, as we just mentioned, we did feel like we needed to, and Jim just talked about it, diversifying our texts, having the kids engage in that, seeing themselves in the literature, that does matter. So that is a change that we've made to respond to the gaps that we've seen. And I also think if we expand things further a little bit, we look at kids based on this kind of performance, but we also look at is attendance a factor in their lives? Is behavior a factor in their lives? Are the kids involved in activities? So they're the kinds of things that we're also thinking about in addition to, and I know all of you are very well aware of this, we put a lot of emphasis and energy on making our climate better and better each day. And I think we all know enough to know that does impact this. If our children are ready to learn, they're going to do better than if their concerns or minds are elsewhere. So there's some of the things we think about too related to that, maybe harder to quantify, but still important in answering that.
Yeah. Thank you for that holistic answer. I appreciate that.
Any additional questions or comments from the board?
I have one more comment. So the library budget works out to $9.77 per student in the district. In my view, that's wholly insufficient for creating the kind of culture of reading that I think we probably need. We have approved large expenditures for science and math curriculum. I think that certainly our libraries and definitely our ELA and our social studies curricula deserve similar attention. So I would like to encourage the district to look at expanding those investments in the upcoming budget.
Thank you. We will definitely examine that and take that into consideration as we begin our new budget season. I would also, just as a point of reference for the board, I would like to provide you with additional investments in novels and books for literacy, as well as a comparison with the
Poetry doesn't hurt either.
Yeah. Write a poem about it, or
Maybe not self-authored.
Unit 2 has poetry included in it, which is
Well, it's more than a unit, but.
Dr. Fetchery.
I'll provide the board with that information, just so we have a comparison, because I think what's difficult about what we see in terms of a library-only budget is I don't believe that it paints the full picture of what we're doing in English language arts in terms of budgeting. But I do also take your point that specifically looking at our libraries and the budget that we have had for our libraries, that we need to examine that and make some comparisons to that in our future budgeting. So we will engage in that activity.
Thank you.
I just wanted to give a few comments. With the progress monitoring the PSSA one point in time, that end of the year snapshot, I appreciate the work that's done through analyzing the data with the benchmarks, especially the detail that you gave, including that small groups to support our students who are proficient in advanced but not showing growth. We don't want to leave them behind. Through the years since 2019, new programming has been implemented based on the analysis of that data. And from what I saw, we are seeing growth over time. So are we back to where we were before? No. But if you keep doing the work that you're doing, analyzing the data, pivoting, and providing resources that are adaptive to meet our students where they are, that hit their zone of proximal development, we will get there. And yes, there are improvements to be made, but I thank you for the work that you're currently doing, and we will continue to partner to make sure that our students get back to where they were, plus, especially in regard to the achievement gap.
I just want to take a moment to recognize and thank our staff members for coming out. We often do this at a district level approach at our board meetings, and I appreciate the focus on one specific building and the grade levels and your contributions. And for our teachers who are here this evening, I want to say that I appreciate your firsthand perspective of what occurs in the classroom, and to be able to give examples and live examples of what is going on, and not just a 30,000-foot view that we often do when we look at the district as a whole. So I appreciate your time this evening, and thank you for your insight as well.
Thank you so much for your time. Dr. Fetcher, does that conclude our orientation for this evening?
Yes.
Thank you. We will move forward with agenda item number 3, which are comments from citizens. Comments from citizens are being conducted both in person and by phone. The phone number to participate in public comment is 267-715-3717 and is featured on the screen at this time. You will be able to join the meeting by calling in on your mobile or landline phone. There are also mics within the room. If you would like to speak within the room, please be sure to state your name and address.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? All right. Karen Jean Charles, I'm on Osceola. So, appreciated the orientation tonight, the achievement orientation, but as a parent in the school district, and particularly as a parent of a child of color, I am very worried. I am extremely concerned about the education level for students of color in the school district. Now, and I know, we've been pointing it out, this is not something that's new, because this has been there's a superintendent's report that, identified that students of color are underperforming their peers. And I don't think that's being adequately addressed. Why is that happening? This is very concerning to me. In the Keystone, I think it was a Keystone exam, it showed as a district, 16% of our kids are proficient or advanced. That means 83% are not, roughly, right? 6% of that is African American kids are proficient in Algebra 1. Now, at the Keystone level, how are they progressing through graduation? That's a concern to me as a parent. I can understand that, and forgive the emotion, but this is very emotional to me, because I don't know if we're looking at this the way we should. I mean, it's great to see on the average what we're doing, but at the level, these kids are not being educated, in my opinion. They're not getting the education they deserve. Okay? Thank you for the 1-minute warning. So I want to know, what exactly are we doing to address that specific issue? And also, I asked last week about the targets for the PSSA, and there was a comment that they were on the web. I looked all over the website, and I didn't see it. So if someone could tell me where to find that, that would be good. Also, I looked at data from other schools within our area, Philadelphia, where some schools have 73% or more are on free lunch programs, or which was, there was a comment in last session about that, right? So that those kids are typically not performing as much. But those schools, there's some of those schools that are passing the state requirements. So what's going on here? Are we looking at reaching out to some of these other schools to see how they are doing and how they are able to get their students to perform at those
Thank
proficiency
you.
levels?
Thank you for your voice, your questions, and your time.
Okay, I'll be back.
There are mics to the left and to the right of you. Please be sure to state your name and address. Mr. Sneak, can you confirm that there are no additional callers on the line?
That is confirmed.
Dr. Fetcher?
I have nothing at this time.
Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation to approve the personnel addendum?
Can. As soon as I find it, there it is. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the changes in personnel as reflected in Personnel Addendum Number 5.1 and Confidential Personnel Addendum Number 5.1A.
Second.
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. The personnel addendum begins with item number 1 and the change of status for 1 professional employee. Item number 2 is a request for leaves of absence for 2 professional employees. Under item number 3 is the resignation of Mr. Bradley Palmer, our Abington Senior High School Assistant Principal, effective January 16th. Mr. Palmer has accepted the assistant to the superintendent position at Penridge School District. The personnel addendum continues with the hiring of substitutes, compensation for IEP meetings, and support personnel items.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Mr. Palmer, congratulations. We wish you the best. And thank you for your service to the district. Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the financial report?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the financial report for the period ending October 31st, 2023, as reflected in Addendum Number 6.1.
Second.
We have a second. We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. I'm going to ask Mr. O'Neill to please summarize the October financial report.
Thank you, Dr. Fetcher. Financial report for the period ending October 31st, 2023. Revenue. As of October 31st, 2023, we received $125.1 million of the $178.1 million revenue budget, which equates to 70.2% of the revenue budget. In October 2022, we collected $120 million of the then $168.5 million revenue budget, which equates to 71.2%. Year to date, we are $5 million ahead of last year, which is attributable to $5.7 million greater real estate tax collections than in October 2022. For the expenses, year to date, we expended $48.1 million of our $189.9 million expense budget, which equates to 25.3%. For the same time period last year, $46.8 million was expended of the then $180.9 million budget, which equates to 25.8%. And that concludes the October 2023 financial report.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the payment of bills?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the payment of bills for the period ending October 31st, 2023, as reflected in Addendum Number 7.1.
Second.
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I will be happy to answer any questions you have regarding the payment of the bills.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Ms. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Feasy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for permits for the use of buildings and grounds?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the applications for permits for use of buildings and grounds as reflected in addendum number 8.1. All permits are subject to change per the provisions of the health and safety plan pertaining to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher?
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. The permit addendum continues to reflect requests for buildings and grounds for meetings and other school events, which are typical for this time of year.
This is a new format, right? This,
It's
Is
been
it
used
so?
for a couple of,
has it? I did not.
Fairly new.
yeah, it is
I like
fairly
it.
new. It is fairly
The
new.
point was that I like it, regardless of when it was implemented. Good work. Carry on.
Any additional questions or comments from the board?
And I'm done.
Seeing that there are none, Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Feasy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for,
Award of contracts.
thank you very much, awards of contracts?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the awards of contracts as reflected in addendum number 9.1.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher?
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Tonight, for your consideration, we have 6 awards of contract and 1 rejection of bid. The first award of contract is for the boardroom audio-visual upgrades. The equipment has been, we're trying to keep it moving and going, and as you probably saw this evening a few times, we had a warning about our sound, which we did not plan before recommending this award. But obviously, we need to upgrade, and it's been quite some time for the equipment within the boardroom. So this is essential because we want to have and continue to have our communications so that people can hear us well, they can see our screen, and the ability to ensure that we can broadcast as well. Next is for design consulting services. This is for the playgrounds that we've heard about that are remaining, Highland, McKinley Overlook, and Willow Hill. And further to that is a rejection of bid for the playground renovations. We went out to bid for Copper Beach, Roslyn, Rydell East, and Rydell West, and there was only one contractor bid received, and the prices exceeded the budget amounts for the project, so we're going to reject that and rebid. Next is for our visitor management system. This is for our annual visitor management system. This is for our Raptor system as you come into each school building and this building in order to access the building. It is an ID check and badge given to you. Next is our website automated communication system and mobile application. This is our renewal of what we implemented in place for this year and to continue that with our communication system for our families and our emergency communications as well. Next is for art supplies and science supplies. And I think that's everything.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
Now you upgrade the boardroom? As I'm leaving?
It's because you're leaving, Daniel.
That's right.
Oh, yeah,
Because
No, oh.
We're taking
Just kidding.
the mute feature off of your microphone.
Oh.
Right, right. Told you.
It's causation, not correlation.
I understand. Fine.
I have two questions. The sound system, was there a bid request for that? Refresh my memory. Or how did we get to that figure of almost $95,000?
Mr. Berge? Oh, yep, sorry, Mr. Sneed.
For the better part of, actually over a year, we've been trying to get contractors in to give us pricing to upgrade the boardroom. We've had a total of 5 different actual vendors come through here. In that time frame, we received 1 quote back in May, and then we finally have this quote now. The pricing is under CoStar's pricing, which is adequate for this kind of award. And the 1 quote that we received back in May, while not responsive because it didn't have all the components that we needed, was very close to this figure. So because of that, I also feel comfortable at this price. So we do feel like we're getting our value for the money.
Mr. Lionetti, can you speak about that?
Yeah, I just want
CoStars
to
as
add
well?
to the effort that Mr. Sneed put in for this. The CoStars program is the state bidding program, so therefore we're getting a state bid price, although we did not conduct the bids ourselves.
Thank you for that information. And the second one is about the rebid process. Is it casting a wider net? How do you get more if you weren't able to get them the first time?
Mr. Berge?
Yes, I've been working with Architera on this as well. Definitely, it would be, as you indicated, spreading a wider net. With the additional dollars, it is a sizable project. One, because of discounts given to the contractors for the equipment, we'll get the materials, they'll get the materials less, which we're hoping they'll pass it on to us. Because it's all our schools, they can mobilize here, they won't have multiple times to come, various years to come. We feel it will generate much more value for the dollar.
Any additional questions or comments? Mrs. Flanagan, I'm sorry.
These are jobs, the playground jobs, they would all be done during the summer.
Right now, I anticipate it would be summer work. We are looking if there's any possibility to get it started during the school year. The students would not be eliminated from playgrounds. Many of our schools have multiple playgrounds. There could be opportunity for considerable savings because playground manufacturers and installers are extremely busy during the summer months, so you pay a premium. So it may be something that we bid it 2 ways, one to do the work summer, one to do it phased. Phasing could also have some negative effects, so we're not sure yet. We're still looking at that.
Any additional questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Vazy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye, ayes have, the motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for proposed bonds?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors authorizes its finance team, comprised of Ms. Audrey Bear, Financial Advisor, Mr. George T. Magnotta, Bond Counsel, Mr. Justin O'Donohue, Solicitor, Mr. Christopher A. Lionetti, Chief Financial Officer and Board Secretary, and Dr. Jeffrey S. Fetcher, Superintendent of Schools, to investigate and prepare for the issuance of General Obligation Bond Series 2024 for capital projects.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher.
As we heard during the orientation, the district is requesting the authorization to assemble the bond finance team to invest and prepare for the issuance of a debt in Series 2024 general obligation bonds.
Questions or comments from the board?
Feels like we're assembling the Avengers.
I do have a question.
And one of the names of the people on there, so yes.
Yes.
Obviously.
How much does it cost to investigate?
Sorry.
Mr. Lionel.
At this time of the investigation, we won't be making any investment. The costs that we will have will be for our bond counsel, our financial advisor, our solicitor's office and other costs of issuance, which are part of the bond proceeds. And that's one of the things that we investigate at this time and will be part of an update that we plan for in February. So as of now, we're not incurring costs.
So we don't pay until we get the money.
Correct.
And if the board so happens to vote it down, what happens to those services?
We would be obligated to pay those. We anticipate that when we're ready to bring this to the board, that we'll have the confidence that it'll be structured in a way that we are confident we will get a yes vote.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions or comments? You like that? That was smooth, wasn't it? Any additional questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Mrs. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Feasy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye, ayes have it, and motion passes. Dr. Fetcher, any additional reports or announcements this evening?
Yes, I provide the conference attendance and professional leaves.
Thank you. Any other business to be appropriately brought up by my fellow board members? Okay. We will move on to agenda item number 13, which is comments from citizens. Comments from citizens are being conducted both in person and by phone. The phone number to participate in public comment is 267-715-3717 and is featured on the screen at this time. If you would like to make a comment within the room, there are mics to the left and to the right of you. Please be sure to state your name and address.
Karen Jean Charles, Osceola Avenue. Okay, so what I was saying before is there are schools in our region who are doing well on these standardized testing. And I know we go to seminars and we do different things. Are we, talking to those folks to see what are they doing? How are their students performing so well? Have we done that? Are we looking at that? Because it's not, it baffles me, to be honest. And I know the job is not easy, okay? Let me say that. As a parent, it's not easy either, just, having a child sit down and do homework. It's challenging sometimes. So I know the job is not easy, but I don't think it's impossible. So can we do something else than what we've been doing? Because what we've been doing hasn't been working. So can we, reach across and see what are others doing that's working? And how are they getting it to work? And then I also want to know, for the 83% of kids or so that are failing Algebra 1, what are we doing to make sure that they're at the appropriate level by the time they reach graduation? Because let me say this. I'm going to put myself out there. When I was in college, I took calculus, and I had the chicken pox. I took it in the summer, and I fell behind. So I know once you fall behind on a course, it's hard to catch up, right, for the progression, as you move through the progression of that course. So if these kids are already behind, what are we doing to move them up? What are we doing? That's what I want to know, because, this is the ELA we talked about tonight, but what are we doing for the math and the science? We're behind in that too. I think it was like 39% passing. What are we doing for those kids that are falling at the basic, below basic? And I'm still not clear on that. With the comment I made last session about they giving kids the scores of a below basic if the school doesn't meet the threshold of. I have a meeting to clarify that, so I'm hoping I get some clarification. But my concern is, what are we doing with these kids to make sure that they're proficient by the time they leave high school in at least the basic courses that they need to that are required for graduation? That's my comment.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers within the room? Mics to the left and to the right of you. Mr. Sneed?
Our next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 9544. Please state your full name and address.
Hey, good evening, Joe Rooney. I'm up in Marshall's Creek. Couple of quick things. First, for the people who are leaving the board, everybody that serves deserves our thanks and best wishes. So I wish all of the departing members the best. The second one is Miss Carroll was the only person that was interested in speaking in the first comment period, and it would be both professional and courteous to allow her to complete what she was saying. She brought up some very important issues, certainly important to her and to many other people. And if we have 40 minutes of a love fest to talk about the board members who are leaving, we certainly can give a parent and an interested citizen enough time to complete their thoughts about their concerns about education. Finally, the information that we received from Dr. Lodwick and Mr. File was excellent. It would be really great if we could get that information also for when we borrow $15 million, how that affects education. We can go back to 2017. We got $87 million in bonds and $25 million incredibly generous donation. How did that affect the education of Abington students? Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you for your voice, Mr. Sneed.
Our next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 9219. Please state your full name and address.
How did that affect the education of Abington students? Thank you very much.
We can hear you. If you can hear me, please remember to turn down your device so we don't get an echo.
That I'm custom made. I can't help it that I look good, feel good, can't dance all night long. I can't help it.
I want to thank you for your time and calling in. Please call back when you're able to turn down the sound in the back, and I will give it another moment for you to call back. If there are any other speakers within the room, there are mics to the left and to the right of you. Please be sure to state your name and address. We'll just give it a moment in case they need to call back. Mr. Sneed, can you confirm that there are no callers on the line?
That is confirmed.
Dr. Fetcher.
Okay. First thing I want to address, Ms. Jean Charles, in terms of how do we collaborate with other school districts. Through the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, we have meetings that are often referred to as job-alike meetings. So all the curriculum leaders in the area get together and they go through topics and talk about those types of things. So it's often that we have that opportunity. When we are examining some of the programs that you saw this evening, and this is an example, and as I mentioned, this is a dialed down example of one specific area and one specific school. When we are developing those programs and we have our committees with large groups of people, with various stakeholders on the committees, selecting materials, we often visit other places that have those materials. We ask what their success rate has been, and we take that into consideration before saying we're going to purchase this series or whatever. We also have the opportunity to take a look at whatever programs we have. We do a review cycle of that and see what can we determine, much as we talked about tonight, some of these programs that were implemented, and it's very similar for math and science as well, are newer programs that we put into place. Specifically, we've tried a few programs from our grant funding during as COVID recovery. And our job now is to see out of those programs that we enhanced in order to meet that need, which programs are working, which programs have provided our students with an increase, not only in a score, but an increase in their performance as well. And to your point of ensuring that our students are not just passed along. A lot of what you saw tonight in terms of centers and working with groups in ELA is also mirrored in our mathematics program in terms of what I need and programs that show where a student is individually, where their deficiencies are, and what we need to do to help that student increase their performance as well. We're always open to other school districts and speaking to other school districts. Many of our teachers bring ideas that they hear from their colleague teachers in other school districts, and our administrators work with other school districts as well. I could speak for myself in terms of the superintendents in Montgomery County, but also across the board. There's a constant sharing of how we are meeting different issues that we're having and problems. It doesn't mean that everything we do has been successful. Obviously, the numbers say otherwise, and we have to make that determination of what it takes to make that a better climb and a better jump within those scores. I think the ultimate thing that we have to do, and that is always taking a look at our data and confronting our data regardless of whether or not it's favorable. And once we do that, we have to dial down to see where the specific issues are and work with our program to see if we have the right materials and the right program to address those needs.
Thank you. I made a note last time about where the targets are, and I know that every school has an improvement plan. Can you provide clarification either by email or by phone call as to where that can be found?
Yes.
Thank you. At this time, we will have closing comments from my fellow board members. Mr. Allen?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Frazier?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Kay?
Well, Mr. Allen, you are now the elder statesman of the school board.
That's scary.
It is scary. Actually, the word terrifying comes to mind, but I will always be available with bail for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Again,
Is
thank
that
you,
for all of
everyone.
us or just for Mr.
No,
Allen?
just Brian.
Cool, okay. Just like to accept the parameters.
I won't need it.
No, you won't.
Yours is
Or
too
might.
much.
Thank you again, everyone, for a powerful evening.
Dr. Mowry?
I'm sad to see you go. Thanks for coming out tonight, and thanks in particular to the teachers who participated in the ELH presentation tonight. I spent my day grading essays, so I know what it's like to have to come out and work after a long day of working already, and facing another day tomorrow. So I just wanted to add that special thanks for them.
Ms. Fazy?
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Ms. Glasser?
Yeah, just again, thank you for having me for this past year. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and I look forward to continuing to contribute in different ways to this community. So thank you.
Mr. Muhammad?
Thank you to my 3 colleagues who are leaving us. I'm gonna get some new neighbors. And looking forward to welcoming our newly elected directors next week.
Dr.
I too
Klein?
am looking forward to you welcoming the newly elected directors. Thank you all again for everything, and I assure you that I will not be calling in from my personal travels, probably otherwise as well. But look forward to seeing you oot and a boot.
Dr. Fetcher?
Just want to thank our board members on all of your service, and particularly congratulate those of you who are concluding this evening. Thank you for your support of Abington School District, but most importantly, thank you for putting the students first in your decision-making, which is evident in all that we do. Thank you.
It is a pleasure to serve. Everyone have a great night. This meeting is adjourned.